almost, I say, slipping back into that kind of garb. There was a stage, I guess, with Room at the Top and stuff, where it was more sharp suits and things, but now very much back to the image that most people have of sort of Adamant and that kind of...
Well, that was the theme of the album. I made a deliberate decision to quit at a peak. So with Kings, I quit it when really I could have stuck with a variation of that idea throughout my career, which that's the way to have a long, in retrospect, a long career in the music industry, is to kind of modify your sound. U2's new album won't sound very different from their first album, if you know what I mean. No disrespect, but you're not expecting... They did do a period with Zooropa and all the rest of it, but there's that, and also, AC/DC, get out there, and that's them. I felt that I wanted to change it with every album, which is a risk, and so every album was a completely different template, and musically and visually. So with this, I thought I really want to consolidate here, and I looked at all the albums, what's my favourite album, and it was Kings, and I had set up the scenario, this character with a stripe across his face, this sort of hussar character, what would he look like had he walked to Moscow as a French hussar with Napoleon and come back, because some of them got back. What would he look like 30 years later? What would he be thinking? He'd now be an officer, So the character, the blue-black hussar, came from that. And then I'm very interested in Nelson, so the idea of marrying the gunner's daughter is a naval term for punishment, which I felt had reflected quite accurately some of the business things I got myself involved in as a musician, when you know nothing but you're very willing to sign your life away for nothing. So without getting bitter on it, I did it in this idea of a sort of Sergio Leone movie title. So some people get it, some people won't. It is provocative. They don't forget it, even if they hate it.
How do you feel about when I read articles? They tend to mention, obviously, the years out, the music biz, the illnesses and stuff you went through. And where do you sort of feel now on that? Is that all firmly behind you, and in a way music is there to fill that void?
I think a lot of the problems, I can't really think of anybody in this profession who hasn't had a period in their career where it's been, they've had a kind of bumpy period or a major problem come up in their life. And certainly reading about people like Johnny Cash and Nina Simone, who I'm a great admirer of, in terms of problems, I haven't even got off the starting block if you compare their lifestyles, and I respect these people. So in a way, that's sometimes to a degree comforting, that it was really surprising that it was such a long time coming, really, because of the workload I placed upon myself and not taking any time off, and also not saying no, because I felt I didn't have the prerogative to do that, because when you're working with a major record company, you're one of many, and it's a kind of machine, and it's almost a delayed reaction. It takes a number of years to realise what you've put in, and it kind of caught up with me, that I suppose all the responsibility and just not stopping working. So that's how I feel about it, and it's been an education.
And kind of bored as you are of going over too many of the old stuff, but I guess what people want to know is now you're in a good state now.
Yeah, I mean, I feel good, and feeling good enough in this world. I'm doing what I love doing. I love music. I know what it's like not to do it now. I know what it's like not to have the opportunity to get your kicks on stage and come off feeling like you've run a marathon, which is what I feel like every time I've done a concert. I'm absolutely wasted. And I suppose it's the same, some people look at people that do kind of marathons or athletes themselves and think they must be out of their tree doing these kind of Ironman things and testing themselves. But unless you've actually done it, you can't explain the kind of natural high it gives you. It gives you a great sense of achievement and a great deal of kind of self-respect. And it's all about the work, really. So without it, there was a void, and you have to fill that void with something, and I think work is the best way of doing it, but it has to be on your terms, which it is now.
Do you kind of...
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, really, I think she wasn't around long enough to receive the awards while she was alive, so it's quite nice that the power of her impact and her persona and her imagery, because she was a very, the very provocative woman in terms of her attitude. She was very bold, quite brave, quite brash. During her lifetime, received kind of a hammering. It was why I know this and why I know that, which I felt was unfair. But you know, it's the work that counts, and I think it's going to take time for people to come to terms with how good she was. So the fact she's getting awarded now posthumously, to me, is absolutely logical. So it's nice to see people are listening to the music and remember the greats, if you like.
And we could be here forever debating the merits of modern music or the system or Simon Cowell and things like that. But briefly, are you a fan of modern music? Do you watch any of those shows, or what do you like?
I think a lot of people make statements about it who have never watched it. I actually watched a season of it, and I think that the little girl Vickers, that I forget what her name was, Dinah Vickers, was she had quite an indie thing going for herself. And the thing about Simon Cowell is that's the state of the business now, you know. And the one thing he doesn't do, he doesn't let art get in the way. He doesn't profess to be an artist. There's no art involved in any of that. So therefore, it has to be criticised as that. It has to be taken as that. I think the artists, it's like a talent show, and you go in knowing nothing. You're put through a crash course. You come out the other end, and then pretty much that's when the test begins for them to maintain their independence, and their style will evolve out of there. I mean, JLS have done very well. So in a way, that's what people want. So there's, you know, the fact I don't necessarily watch it now is just purely because it's not really for me. But if an indie band won it, if a really good indie band won it, then people would change their minds. But indie bands think it's probably beneath them to go and queuing up with thousands of people outside the auditions. So I don't know. Nothing's really changed.
Do you look at stars like Gaga and kind of see an element of that whole performance side? I mean, she stems from a love of similar music. I guess you'd look back to ones that you would have liked, people who dress up, the performance side. Do you see that in her?
I think anybody that never looks the same twice and makes that kind of effort, you know, I kind of applaud that. I think it's and it wouldn't be successful if millions of other, you know, young kids didn't, you know, appreciate that. I think right now the swing of creativity with people like Gwen Stefani, Pink, and Gaga, and let's not forget, you know, Madge. The real, you know, provocative imagery, certainly live, and Katy Perry, you know, is coming from girls, which really wasn't the case when I was doing kind of, you know, the punk rock thing. That was pretty much 99% men. So there has been something good come out of the last few years, and I think it's really the women in rock and roll are setting the standard, if you know what I mean.
The men have got some catching up to do. That's why you're back.
Yeah, you know, yeah. Well, there must be some kind of demand for it. Who knows? Hopefully it is, but that's just me. That's just the way I feel right now. That's the way I want to present the work, and people seem to like it.